Welcome once again into the Soccer OG World Cup Daily. Glad you can check in every day here, whether there are games or not. We only have 4 games remaining. Semifinal, third place game. Boo! Third place. Especially on a World Cup like this, right? Let those guys go back. Let those guys have some time off. Should not have a third place game in, but we do. I'm sure we'll enjoy it. And then the final. We're into the final week. So I can't believe we got here, but we did it. And overwhelming World Cup for sure. 4 games a day. We're moving right along. So we'll ease on in for this final week with some very interesting stuff. As always, you can check out the Soccer OG World Cup Daily audio podcast where all podcasts are available. Check out the one with Grant Wall yesterday. Getting a wonderful comments from that. Thank you so much. And I'm seeing so many incredible tributes and uplifting stuff all over social media and in podcast and on all content plays here around the World Cup. You can check us out here on YouTube on my name, Max Bretos. Like and subscribe, like and hit that thumb. And check us out on all our social media handles as we will get in here. We have a very special guest, Julie Stewart Binks. Remember Drink with Binks? She has been a great contributor to this sport over the last few years. We'll get her thoughts on the Canadian national team effort, as well as what's happening with the World Cup. We'll also share some stories about Grant Wall. And as always, the Soccer OG World Cup Daily brought to you by the fine folks at Farmer John. Get your day started off on the right foot. It's always nice that smell of crackling bacon hits the house, the apartment, the RV, wherever you are. That gets you going. So check out Farmer John and their incredible list of breakfast products. And all sorts of products. You don't have to, it's not just breakfast, but we're getting an early start. Although we don't have any early kickoffs now, everything's going to be later in the day. Before we get to, we'll get to the interview here in a few minutes. I did want to give you a thought overarching, I should say, about the World Cup. And there's been some dark clouds, and the situation with Grant is right there. And as we head into the final week, there was, the final week, it almost feels like relief that, after 12 years of this Qatari World Cup, and there's been some good moments, but every time you start feeling good, you have something. Early on, from the Gianni Infantino comments, which were pretty tone deaf, to the renegotiation of the beer at the stadium. And I don't care if there's beer at the stadium. People can get their drinks. Maybe you don't drink, but it just goes to show the way this World Cup was going to go. And there is some relief. I'm not going to call it a nightmare because I've enjoyed this World Cup. But that's some of the stuff that you certainly have to take into consideration. Empty seats. Some of these games, man. I'm like watching England-France in that upper deck where all the dignitaries, there's big swaths of empty seats. It's unforgivable. I mean, the atmosphere in this compared to past World Cups, just not cracking. Nothing on the host team. Qatar was barely there and didn't really get to see a fever pitch. Morocco's got big numbers, but even they couldn't get all their people in the stadium sometimes, so you missed an opportunity there. So just add it to the list. Officiating has become a problem. The over-officiating in Argentina, Netherlands, it's the more I think about it, the more bad taste in my mouth it has left, and it led that to be such a cynical game by the end, and just some really bad behavior from both teams. Gary Neville, amongst others, very critical of Wilton Sampaio, the Brazilian referee who was with England, France, and that was not well officiated either. And we can pick at a few things, but at the end of the day, as I said yesterday, missing the penalty on Mason Mount, which was reviewed and correctly given as a penalty, missing that call, that's an alarm bell. That is the easiest play to determine a penalty. If you're a referee and you see that and you say that's not a penalty, I don't think there's a spot for you in the World Cup. And I watch a lot of these refs because they, Wilton Sampaio obviously I see him at the Copa Libertadores and he's very competent, but we're not picking on the refs here. It's just a piece of the shortcomings that we've had. We do want to talk about U.S. soccer, U.S. men's national team, because the road to 2026 begins right now. And I'll tell you why. Because this weekend, U.S. men's national team forward Josh Sargent played an EFL championship action. He was in the starting 11 as Norwich played Swansea. Two goalkeepers, Zach Steffen, who wasn't in the squad, there he was. Why am I forgetting the name of the other goalkeeper who was on the U.S. national team? They were both starting for their clubs, as we had Middlesbrough and, man, why am I drawing a blank on this? Can someone help me here? Ethan Horvath, and Middlesbrough and Luton Town. The Luton Town. So that's already starting. We have a lot of players that we'll see get into the Premier League, which starts on the 26th. So we'll have eyes on Christian Pulisic. There is big stories breaking about Newcastle United looking to get him. And there's some other clubs, Man United and Arsenal, looking to do a loan deal. We'll see if Chelsea are ready to part ways, but that January market's going to be active. And a lot of American players should be in the middle of that. Serginho Dest getting confirmed there. We'll see. We'll see the Americans at Leeds. We're excited about that. We'll get Jesse Marsh back as he leads Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson, and then Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson. And then what happens? And I don't think Americans will really come in January, but there will be that opportunity. We did have a group of guys already move, Paxton Aronson, Gaga Slonina, and a couple others. So that conveyor belt is still churning, and that will continue with all the great young talent that has been here. Did want to mention something about Zach Steffen. There was an article about missing the September camp. He has referenced that, saying that was through my choice. I decided to call out of camp because I was having mental health issues back in May and June. That's why I missed that. I'd miss it to be home with the family. That was from The Athletic, and obviously that has to play some part maybe to why Zach Steffen wasn't called in the national team. And we don't want to forget about Zach Steffen, but he's playing. And the important thing here is that he is hopefully working on himself and mental health. And, I've obviously gone through a few things, and I want to address that and talk to people so we can have wellness and get better. So we'll have that dialogue. I appreciate that. And thanks for giving me the dialogue here to talk with you guys. This is a wonderful therapy for me too, to be able to talk as if we're having a conversation. So I'm very happy that you are there. So there was also something in a report that is making its way through social media. Greg Berhalter singled out an American player that he said was having a really bad camp. And it was a singular player, and he told a story. It was the Charter, I believe. I want to give the right reference here, but I saw it on other accounts too. And they were thinking about flying him back out. Didn't mention who the player it was. A lot of people are assuming it's Gio Reyna. I would be very cautious of assuming that, because it doesn't sound like, after all that happened, to say this, although it was peculiar that Greg Berhalter would bring this up. Again, it's a story that I am okay with coaches, managers maintaining information not for public consumption. I'm okay with not having to be upfront with us. So don't be upfront with us in this case. I think that's fair, because when you're singling out a player, it's going to get people to think who, and really at the end of the day, it's going to come down to 3 or 4 players that you can take an educated guess from. But he said he addressed it, and they went to the team, and the team said, yeah, you've let us down, but you're okay. Let's get it back on straight, and it all worked out. So I think he was trying to tell us a good feel-good finish, but the means to get there, not so great. Not so great. So we'll see what happens with Greg Berhalter as he continues to judge where he wants to go. I mean, look at his options, and the U.S. men's national team is certainly one of those. And we'll look at these players because, again, 3.5 years to the next World Cup. And I see a lot of people doing a projected 26-player roster for 2026. I will be doing that this week as well, so look out for that. That should be fun because there are a lot of options. And when we get back into the clubs in 2023, there's going to be more. I mean, there are young players making that way. Georgi Mihalovic playing in Holland. Taylor Booth playing in Holland. We get to see Ricardo Pepi, see where he's doing. The Dutch League is going to be a fun watch. So a lot of American players. Paxton Aronson at Eintracht. What if he follows that trajectory of his brother? Why not? and more players playing a bigger role in a variety of leagues. So watch it. This is the fun part. Just because the World Cup's over, we don't turn off the U.S. men's national team. You know that. We stay with it, and we push forward to continue that conversation. It's fun. It's fun to see on Twitter and see who's performing, and we get the clips of these goals. That is all excellent and excellent stuff. I saw a stat that the U.S. covered the most distance per 90 minutes in the World Cup, 122 kilometers, which was 9 more kilometers than second Spain. So what's 122 kilometers? That's about 70, 75 miles? 70. 60 is 100 kilometers. By the way, I'm a big believer in the metric system. It makes sense. It's easy to follow, but I digress. So that was I had some people talking about, well, do we want to be this running athletic team? And I go, I kind of do. I mean, and now do we bring in the more technical players? Possibly. Do we have them? I don't know. I would say probably not, but let's see where it goes from there. But that is our identity. And I would say this, you got to stay true to your identity by and large. You just don't shed that, because that's who we are. We run through walls. We run till our sails are out of wind. And that's, every country has to rely on their identity somewhat. And I think the U.S. has to do that too. So we'll talk a lot more about the U.S. men's national team. But again, the path for 2026 has begun already. Get ready for it, because we talked about the Copa America. There's going to be 2 Gold Cups. You have got to seize every opportunity. You don't want to leave any step undone, so that when you host this World Cup, that it is a quarterfinal or better. Or you get the right coach. You make the connection so this sport can blow up. That is it. If we don't seize 2026, soccer will never be at that level. I mean that. You cannot leave one drop of juice in the 2026 lemon. So let's remember that. The Soccer OG World Cup Daily. We'll be back with our very special guest, Julie Stewart Binks. Subscribe, like, thumbs up city here as our interview comes next. We are back here on the Soccer OG World Cup Daily, and absolutely thrilled to welcome in someone everyone knows, been a great soccer contributor. I enjoyed my time with Drinks with Binks. That had to be the best show you had, as we welcome in Julie Stewart Binks in her World Cup grotto with all the bells and whistles.
My World Cup sort of hoarder's paradise right now, really, with it. The Beanie Babies and, the balls and flags and hockey stuff as well. But Max, thanks so much for having me on. You came on my show actually before Drinks with Binks was Call It a Night.
Oh, that's right.
We had 2 shows for a while.
I didn't have a drink. You're right. I didn't have a drink.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Sometimes we brought drinks on that show as well. made it fascinating. But I loved, and it will still always live on, just the segment Truth or Dance, where it was ask a question and you can either answer it, or if you don't answer, you have to dance. And so I'll still never forget when the question was, who is the most overrated player on the U.S. women's soccer team? And I remember they gig I'm going to dance to that.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one.
And then I didn't know how to dance the Irish jig. I just looked like that kid on a trampoline for the first time. It was the rhythm was off, my knees were all over, and you were just so into it.
Well, lucky for you, partner. I had some Irish and Scottish friends as a kid, so I had a lot of traditional dances that I would see them do, and some of it would rub off. So it was more the music. I just put the music in my head.
Great. I was we didn't plan any of this. So Max is a great improv scene partner. Just yes and at that moment.
Indeed. And it's, by the way, I would love to be that moment again. It's good to laugh and smile, because I know we were talking off air, and I know we want to talk about the World Cup, but we'd be remiss because I know we're both really affected with what happened with Grant Wall, and it is. I was telling you that obviously these things affect you because we're all in this media. But then I go on and I talk to people, and I still feel that. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. It is really a bitter pill to swallow, and it's something that's going to give us there's going to be some good things. There's reflection, and I've reflected a lot, and I've almost said I want to be a better journalist. I want to be a person because of Grant. So I know there's some good things that come of it, but again, it's just a devastating circumstance.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's just been like the most shocking ever since we all started found out the news to now, just like that period of being, you said it on your podcast, feeling numb and like sort of just feeling in an odd daze of just like a shell of yourself in an odd way. Like when I obviously found out the news, I was just like, I almost like puked. Like I was in such shock. And then I was just like, there's so many different phases, obviously, that you go through with like finding, like, because I lost a lot of friends right before the pandemic, sort of like in a really crazy way of them all. I was out like just it was like every time I'd get a message, I'd be like, oh God, like what's happened now? And it was like I kind of got used to almost like fearing the worst. And so then I opened up my phone. I was at the Music Man in New York City, and thankfully, well, not thankfully, but like I didn't check it at intermission for whatever reason. And then at the end of the musical, I like opened my phone. I had like a million messages. It's like, oh my gosh, I just completely whatever. But it's definitely been a lot. Like, it's just I mean, I can barely even like speak about like the whole situation and like just the immense like grief and sadness you feel for his wife Celine and his family, and it's like it's overwhelming. And
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, really the whole thing is, and it's like we're all kind of like the soccer community, luckily, like we have each other to sort of like deal with it and grieve, and obviously in our different ways. But I had so many wonderful people reach out to me yesterday who are in the soccer community from like all walks of it, that were just like, hey, like I feel you, I'm feeling the same way too. So we're all kind of putting out like different sort of posts and stuff about Grant, and like then the overwhelming sentiment like with him was just like that he was literally like one of the most genuine, kind, wonderful people in the world, that like just helped everyone and was never looking for anything in return. And there was just so much kindness with him, and just so much he was just like a really good cheerleader for people. And just like he reached out to me and my boyfriend to come watch like Champions League a million times. I'd be like, oh, sorry, we can't today, or we can't. I look back through my message, I'm like, man, Grandma's asked us like 10 times to come. Like I went like a handful of times. I'm like, man, he still kept like always including us, even when we were like not free to come, or like different things were up. And for me, like my biggest thing, I tweeted about it, but like I'll never forget, was when we did the Women's World Cup in 2015 for Fox, and then I went straight to doing the Gold Cup for Fox, and it was like the craziest I was gone for 67 days on the road. It was like insane.
I remember when you went through that. I remember I was following you on social. I was like, wow, that's quite a run.
Yeah, and like for people like to remind themselves, like 2015 Women's World Cup was in Canada, and like Canada was very vast to travel. And my producer Jeff Hyman and I, we literally we went from like, we were in Ottawa, and then we flew to Vancouver, and we did a match, like a game in a layover, and we flew from Vancouver then to Montreal. It was like we didn't even have, it's like, here, you guys go to Vancouver, also on the other side of the country, 3 hours time zone difference, then come back. And it was like you would sleep on the plane as like your hotel. We would be booked into every different city. It was actually insane. It was so insane. And Jeff and I went so intense on it. We were like, hey, we were covering everyone but USA. And so it's like, we got sit downs with these people. We've got this. We were just like, boom, boom, boom. We're going to get every country. And it was kind of like, well, that's like great. Like, this is kind of like a make work project for you guys, just to get you guys like,
well, by the way,
go play fetch with that ball or whatever. And so, sorry.
No, I was going to say that's quite a departure from what we're having in Qatar, where people say they can take an airport shuttle to one game to the next. And how about a 6-hour flight from Ottawa to Vancouver?
Yeah, we're being munked in. We're in like a random different time zone. We're like, I've never been in this time zone before, to wherever. But then, so to bring it back, but Grant was also doing that too. So like you know, one time we found each other in Vancouver at the same time, and we were like, wait, like we're
This
not
is a
supposed to be
moment.
here at the same time. Like someone's supposed to be on the road somewhere else.
Am I supposed to be in Montreal? Yes,
Yeah,
go.
like, oh no.
I took
And he was so sweet in that we did Gold Cup like in Philadelphia. I'll never forget it. He was like, you have been busting your butt and like going nonstop. And he was like, I booked you like a massage so that you can just like relax on this one day off. And I was like, oh my God, like what? Like what coworker would even like think about that when you're going through something crazy? And he was like you have like go, like this is mandatory. You have to take time off right now to go. And I was like, thank you so much for being like so considerate. And that like that stuck with me forever. And then him and I actually like I got to sit beside him when it was like Confederations Cup USA or USA Mexico at the Rose Bowl, as I put up a picture of him being sidelined. Like it was just, we always sort of were in similar places sometimes with our reporting. And he was always, I see people's stories saying like, oh, he helped me sort of get into the business and help me with my career. And I came from Canada and like got the job at Fox Soccer Daily and was very young in like the national scene of any of this stuff. Like I'd hold on to the anchor desk because I was so scared before we go on air. And I met Grant like that way through us being on air together. And then, but he was always still such a great champion of like, it's like he could tell if maybe you felt down about yourself or something. Like even most recently, he was like, hey, the last time I ever spoke with him in person, he was like, we have to get you back in soccer like more regularly. He was like, we miss your report. He was like, your reporting like was so good and all this stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, like thanks for even caring to say something like that. Cause I was like, we've all questioned ourselves like in this industry of like,
Oh yeah,
hey,
this is a
am I
tough
done
industry,
today?
as you know.
Like,
We always reflect all the time on that, and we all could use that kind of reinforcement. And it's a good, and I'm glad you heard, and I'm glad you're talking about it, Julie, because again, these are things that I want to do. I want to reinforce people. And I've been seeing one person after the other talk about those moments where Grant lifted them up or gave them an opportunity or he put a good word in for them. Yes. And those little things we all should do, or book someone a massage, of course. And that, I'm gonna maybe start, maybe start doing that. But and to the soccer community, I've been seeing that. I mean, we're an eclectic bunch. We're all over the place. We kind of annoy each other sometimes, but at the end of the day, we come together and we're a close group, and we'll stick our chest out for each other, and we'll fight people for each other, which I truly believe it when I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, right. And on that note with like Grant, like just doing like sending little messages to people, reminding them of like, even like when you see, but I do this now, it's like when I see people do something on TV or I see them do something anywhere, I'm like, hey, like, good job. Or like, even if I'm thinking it and I don't send them the message, now I'm always like trying intentionally to like send that message, because like it makes such a big deal to someone's day, because this is again an industry where it's like built on insecurity of like, you can be on the biggest stage doing the greatest stuff.
So true.
And feel like the smallest person in the world. And it's like, those messages mean so much. And also Grant, like what you were saying in sort of your other podcast too, episode of like, he was a person that definitely pushed the boundaries, was always searching for like the truth, and like his reporting skills and standards were just, you know, the best. And I've talked with him because I've been working on a book proposal last year where his wife helped me, Celine, Dr. Gounder, like a ton. We did a ton of Zoom interviews, and like even just talking with his wife and with Grant and like learning like, man, the depth of like reporting on institutions, on like, you know, human rights, like all these different things where it's like, these are big topics.
Racism, big, yes. I mean, top tier topics that we sweep under the rug so much, and we figure we can't do it, but he probed and
because it's like, and it's not easy, as you said, like those are the jobs that are so difficult to do because people don't want you around, right? Like they don't want you asking questions. They don't want you fishing for information. So I think like to just sort of maybe put a bit of a button on it, like when I saw this all go down and I'm, you know, questioning what happened, obviously like everyone to Grant, I was like, Grant taught me anything is to ask questions and to like to pursue the truth and to help people like along the way with it. And so I think all of us look in the mirror and we're like, want to be more like him, right?
Yeah,
like
That's what he'd want too. I mean, we're going to ask these
Mhm.
questions to be tough, and that's great stuff, Julie. I'm so glad you shared that with us because it's good to help us heal. And I know for you too, just to talk about it is nice. It's a
It
little weight,
helps.
a
Yeah, all
tiny
of us.
weight. It's not a lot, but it's a
Yeah.
tiny weight. He's obviously the World Cup goes on. I know Grant would like to see us move on. And I see you have the 4 flags, and you were telling me you had all 32 or actually 31 flags. Were they all up there? You were missing one flag. You said it was a Saudi Arabia
Oh,
flag.
you're gonna out me on this one now. It's like
Well, they sent you a bad box.
My boyfriend's like, I'm gonna report that you had one missing flag from that.
That's
That you
crazy.
didn't have.
Maybe it was stuck to another flag. But did you actually have all 32 up there or 31 up there?
Yeah, so these are these flags, like you see them around bars and whatnot, like that. They kind of
I
are
love
like
flags. I love little flags.
indicator. Yeah, I also have wait, I also have like all the um little ones.
These are the ones that didn't make it.
Oh yeah, so I have Saudi Arabia.
Saudi. All right, Saudi Arabia accounted for.
I have Saudi Arabia here, but I didn't have in my flag. Saudi Arabia was missing, and I got there was a string. I was trying to figure out how to put it up. Like, was I just gonna throw it, kind of like tinsel around because it's so
like
big
a sailor.
to put up there? Yes, I was like, where do I put all these flags? And then I was like, I cut them so that I could tape them because I'm 10 years old. I was like, I'll just tape these flags up here, and then it's like, okay, they can't all fit. So then I thought, well, I'll just do the groups at first. And then when our Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia, I was like, oh my God, like I don't have the Saudi Arabia flag.
I can't wave that title cocktail flag because that ain't going to cut it.
So then I had to like not put the full group up and just put like just the teams that were playing in the hits that I was doing. I was like, oh God, Saudi Arabia's now going to win the whole thing just because I don't have this flag in here or something.
Well, maybe Argentina, the team they wins the whole thing, which would be quite a coincidence. But
oh gosh, I think that.
How's your bracket looking?
Well,
it couldn't be worse than mine.
My bracket has Argentina winning it all, so that's all that matters right now. And when we get to March Madness of the World Cup, I'm looking for a winner right now. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of work with FanDuel on this, which has been great because like betting on soccer is a little bit chaotic in the World Cup. So, but it's not like you can just go chalk with everything. Like you can't just go favorites because we've seen like so many favorites go out. So it's like finding unique ways to like, okay, so I believe that Argentina is going to beat Croatia. That's not like wild to say, but then it's like, what's fascinating about this game that like could put it on the edge? Like, oh, if this could happen, or obviously people to score. And like the match against the Netherlands, I was like, oh man, look, I have been saying all of my hits, like it's like Lautaro Martinez. I just like saying his name and rolling.
There's a lot of Martinez's on that Argentina. There's Emi, there's Lautaro, there's Lisandro.
Martinez is his energy in penalty kicks.
He's a crazy person. He's a crazy person.
I was like, I love this guy. Like I haven't really like thought much about Emi Martinez until like we did the World Cup qualifiers on Fubo TV for CONMEBOL. Obviously saw him, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I love just like, he's just like dancing, like takes his shirt off. I'm like, yes, give me that energy right now. And so when Lautaro like made the final penalty, I was like, finally, because this guy, I've been saying every time I'm like, oh, take an anytime scorer on this guy because he scored 7 qualifying goals, same as Messi, and then it's been like
he's been terrible tournament until then.
Yeah. But I think I'm just like I'm nervous. Like so the way I'm seeing the final 4 teams of this World Cup is like this is Messi's world and we are living in it. Like this is it.
That Spanish referee thought it was Messi's world too, the way he officiated it. That's right, I said it.
They're all subliminally knowing it is. Like your mind is like, okay, wow, this is Messi is main character energy season. Okay, everyone else, just pawns in if Messi can do this or not. So I think he can, and I think he can do it. Yeah. And Argentina's like got this newfound resilience of like, okay, it's all about spin zone, right? It's like we gave up a 2-goal lead to Netherlands, but like we came back and won in penalties.
Yeah, that was big time.
That was like to still have that mental fortitude of like we're not crumbling, we're not the Toronto Maple Leafs, in an elimination game 7. We are going to win this.
That's an old wound there, Julie. She's like, oh, I'm going to bring that
We're
up.
not 2013 Toronto Maple Leafs against Boston Bruins. Yeah,
Oh,
no.
don't be too specific now. Gosh, wow.
Yeah,
Sports do that to you. And look, I that's still the great story for him to win it. You know, Ronaldo's gone, Neymar's gone. It is Messi, and although some people have kind of turned on him because of that Netherlands game, because it's been salty Messi, which I kind of like. I mean, that may be the Messi that gets him over the finish line. But
that's what we've seen. Remember, he left the national team. Like, people forget it was like, he was like, I'm done.
Retired.
Like,
I'm done.
I can't do. I'm done with this right now. And like losing Copa America here, you know, to Chile, and like all these different things he's gone through in his career. And it's like, no. I'm like, the story of this has to be that he wins, like,
right,
or that Morocco wins, and it's just like a crazy, random, you know, what 250 to 1 odds to win it or something like that. I'm just pulling that out. I think it's more than that.
First African team to do it. I don't know what to expect. No one should listen to my picks because it's been brutal. But right now, I think Croatia's going to win it. I'm gonna probably.
Why?
They're very consistent, and I truly believe, and I think you can say this about Morocco, is that teams hate playing against them, and Morocco's been really consistent. I think both these games are going to they grind you down, and I would love. I mean, I think if France plays Argentina, Argentina will play a little defensive. I mean, France, England, I loved because there were two teams, open game, pushing it. Yeah. It was a proper game. We didn't have low blocks, counterattacks.
No.
But I mean, we're going to get counterattacks in these two games, which is fine. But I do enjoy an open game. But I don't think any option will be an open game. Depending, even Croatia, Morocco. I mean, what are they going to do there? Croatia will be. Like, I'm sure Morocco will. You take it. No, you take it. No, you can take it.
Like the what is it? The Simpsons Ariaga. Video of soccer. Yeah.
Ariaga too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that like the people that are looking for sort of like the favorites want to see Argentina, France, right? Like, you want to see
a great final. That France is the best.
Trying to repeat as champions, which would be like incredible, especially with all of the injuries that they've had. But they haven't really faced anyone that's like, other than England. Like, England definitely dominated that game against them, and like, God bless Harry Kane, even though, you know, you knew it. You knew he was going to miss that penalty. Yeah. Like, you knew it. Anyway, I feel so bad for him. And Jude Bellingham, like the video afterward of him running up to him, I was just like, oh gosh, like, bless his heart.
By the way, Jude Bellingham, I keep forgetting what a physical specimen he is. He's just a massive dude. I mean, he's not heavy, but he's got these shoulders that are like a giant coat hanger. It's like, it's
that's
huge.
What's so cool seeing the World Cup, seeing a lot of these stars break out that like, you would know from watching him, like, if you're a fan of soccer and like watching him in the Bundesliga and stuff, but then like people are seeing them on the world stage and it's like, oh, this is like a breakout. Like, this is like a career, obviously a career maker, but I kind of hate the World Cup in, well, many reasons, but like in one regard, because it is like, it's like baseball playoffs, but only every 4 years. Where you're like,
no one likes baseball playoffs. It's too much suffering.
It's like, we've gone, so qualifying takes so long and it's so difficult and it's like insane, and then you get there and it's like, oh, boom, like, sorry, like, you went home after like that one weird thing happened, or that referee helped decide this or that, and it's like, you guys spent so much time to get here, and then it's just like, you're out.
Yeah, it is it's that's what makes it the most compelling and frustrating. I mean, for all the thought we've talked about our national teams for 4 years, USA and Canada, you know, they were around for a little over a week.
It was 10, just 11 days. Blink of an eye, you're out.
And I go, is that it? That's it?
Canada was just like, were they in it? It was like,
yes,
Canada
they were.
Like, what?
Well, Julie, before I let you go, I want to ask you about Canada. And by the way, when I see those 4 flags, it gives me comfort because you have 3 continents represented. It's a World Cup. So I'm really happy about that. Canada had their moment. Say they scored a goal against Croatia, which not many people could say. I think there's only 2 goals against Croatia.
And the
should have beaten Belgium.
Morocco, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is spinning towards 2026. Yeah, that was the one that got away from them, and then John Herdman put foot in mouth, and then it kind of went all south. But they hung with Morocco too, and Morocco's still there, so they were in a very difficult group, you'd have to say. So, looking at what they did and spinning towards 2026, where is your optimism for Soccer Canada?
Oh, I mean, it's only going up, because like, if you were to ask me, obviously the last World Cup or my entire life. This is the first time I've seen them in a men's World Cup. And it was like a really strange feeling because I've never cheered for the men in a World Cup before. And they were always kind of the butt of every joke in Canada. And like, just like, oh, well, the women seems like amazing, blah, blah. Men's like, blah, blah, all this, like they suck. And then of course they topped qualifying and like have all these incredible players. And then Alphonso Davies is like, just once you're like, hey, we got that guy on our team, like maybe we have a chance. Like he's like kind of like our Messi in a way. And then I was at this Canadian bar in New York called the Canuck. Obviously, I was at a Canadian bar.
I got to go there. I got to visit that place.
It's a bar for me. Yeah, it's a Canadian bar. And it was.
Get me a Molson on draft. Toronto.
Oh, yeah, they got everything. Yeah, it's I love that spot. And so they had, like, everyone's there and people are singing the national anthem. And, like, people are used to singing the national anthem for, like, hockey. So after, I'm filming it and then everyone's like, all right, boys, let's go. Let's get pucks in deep. All right. Just like having fun with it because it was like an out of body experience of like, we're cheering for soccer in this one, not Olympic hockey or something like that. And so, but that game against Belgium felt like a Canada USA game, like in hockey, like something that was like, oh my God, so many chances. And then you knew like when, Davies missed the penalty, but like just opportunities weren't going that way. I'm like, it's like that old thing. Like if you can't capitalize on your chances, the momentum shifts to the other team because they know they can shut you down. It's like a total mind game. And so after that, I was like, well, hey, maybe they can do something. And then they got blown out against Croatia. And I like cried. I actually cried.
Oh,
I was like,
that had to be tough.
It's just like one of those things. It's like that how England fans the other day, it's like the hope that kills you. Like, it's just, you're like, hey, maybe there's a chance. Same with USA. Like, you're just like, well, you're like, Netherlands is beatable. And you're like thinking, and like, that's like anything in life. It's almost like, just don't have any expectations. Like, just assume you're going to be living in the gutter and then everything will be great. Like,
you can't do that. And now they've shown you hope. So you got to be ready. But I'm excited for the Canadian public that they got to enjoy that. And it was like weird, but they're like, oh, we're going to do this again. Let's get used to it. We're no longer the butt of the jokes. Our team is good.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Well done.
It can only get better, right? Like, just with the amount of, like, I mean, there's some issues with Canada soccer and like everything within, that whole regard. But it's like Canada, USA, and obviously Mexico need to be running on all four cylinders ahead of like 2026. And like, the thing is, everyone keeps being like, oh, 2026 is going to be great. I'm like, man, like, are we gonna have a planet then? Like, I don't know. A lot's happened in the last 4 years. It's really made me like, I'm not into long-term planning these days.
No meteor hits until after the 2026 World Cup. I think that's fair.
Global once in a lifetime pandemics. Like stuff where you're like, oh, at last World Cup, like, did we think we'd be at this place right now? No. So, not to get too existential on this stuff, but yeah, it is exciting. They've only had 2 matches in Canada, which kind of sucks, but at least listen, Toronto gets one.
Yeah, well, Canadian sports on the up and up. In addition to soccer, they're doing great in basketball. I see all these Canadian players in the NBA and obviously hockey. So you got sports to cheer for there, Julie. And I appreciate you joining me. Beautiful stuff. Thank you for sharing that about Grant. And we're excited. I mean, 2026 starts now.
2026 starts now. Before we're looking ahead. This whatever happens here. Hopefully it's Messi's
Don't look back.
Whatever. Don't look back. We're already on to 2026. And I'm excited to have that many teams. I know people are really critical of it, but I think it should be interesting. It gives like a bit, it's going to be great. It's like inviting more people to a party. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen with all these new people here.
Right on. Well,
that sounds really bad. Yeah.
Put it in your calendar. 2026 summer party. 48 teams, all invited.
Oh, I can't wait.
We'll be there.
It's gonna be awesome. We're going to be all over. I love how planning is as if like I'll still be broadcasting somehow then and won't be like,
I know. I'll be in real estate by janitor,
then. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be pouring pints at the Canuck probably. So we'll see.
Dude, I was thinking about picking up a couple shifts, that's not a bad gig.
Julie Stewart Binks, JSB on TV. Thanks for joining me. And we'll continue here on the Soccer OG World Cup Daily every day. We'll see you again tomorrow as we get closer to the semifinals. A lot to look forward to. We'll talk to you then.